the best coaches in the game. We really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmet's casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Tick. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just drop. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
FantasyFling, we are doing cash lineup review. You know, I don't like these kind of weeks because didn't make money in cash for me personally. Now, some of DFS Army subscribers, they made money in cash. You know, these things happen. You will have your weeks when you don't cash. And regardless, we want to look back and see what we did wrong. We're not going to just assume that, you know, it was just bad variance and, you know, we made all the good plays, but we were just unlucky this week. So chances are if you play cash the way you're supposed to, that is what happens. But nonetheless, we want to find leaks in our game. I certainly found a couple this past week. So we are going to look into it and see where the cash line was, what mistakes we made. So going over here to Fantasy Labs, this is a $25 massive double up single entry. And I've said this before, but want to make sure I reiterate this. Make sure when you're doing cash games that you do single entry, unless you are an MME player and it's really sharp, which if you are, you're probably not watching this cash lineup review to see, you know, how to win successfully at cash games, or maybe you are. I don't know. I'm an idiot sometimes. I just say things. So nonetheless, let's look at what won. I will say, though, the single entry, the reason you want to do that is because you will get your McLovins and your Chipotle addicts of the world. They will mass enter these $25 mass double ups, and you will see a much higher cash line. So let's say on a given week, the cash line in a single entry is 145 points. Like it was here. Yeah, in a double up, you're probably going to see 160 plus for a mass multi-entry that's not single entry. So there is a pretty big gap there, and it's plus EV to play these single entry contests. If you want to play the mass multi-entry, awesome. But definitely make sure you're playing these as well because it is an easier route to the cash line. So the lineup that got there was a Matthew Stafford build, and you know, Matthew Stafford was chalk. He was one of the great cash plays. So was Joe Burrow. So was Justin Fields and Tua. Those were really the kind of the top guys. Trevor Lawrence actually snuck in there as well. But it was a good game environment. But Kyron Williams got the touchdowns. So this lineup actually did not have him, but we'll get to that. Raheem Mostert, this was a core play for me. I had him on my sheet as a core play. It was easily the best play on the slate. This was Miami had a 30.5 point team total, and this was like a 10-point spread. So this is exactly the kind of game environment you want to play a guy like Raheem Mostert. Now, for me, I wouldn't play, and this is kind of one of my decisions that led me down the wrong path this week, but I don't like playing running backs in the same game. Specifically, a guy like Chuba Hubbard, who was going to be in a negative game script on a pretty bad team, and he's at a questionable floor. However, he was 4,300 because Miles Sanders was ruled out and he was chalk. So sometimes you just have to eat the chalk. And I think if you play Chuba Hubbard, you did pretty well this past week because he was chalk and he was so cheap. He didn't have to do much to get there. Well, he 4x almost his salary. So smash play, it was certainly okay to play him. With Mostert in this situation, and that was one of those leaks in my game because he does get a little bit of receptions out of the backfield, so he won't be completely phased out. And by the way, his production came early in the game before Miami had a chance to be up in this game. In fact, Carolina got up 14-0. So, game scripts can be pretty difficult to project sometimes, and that's exactly what happened here. Now, Jamar Chase, I thought he was a fantastic play. Look, he was 66% owned. He really is just, I think, underpriced compared to, his skill set. Like, we'll probably see him before the end of the year above 9K. He just didn't get the touchdowns this week. He only got 14 points, so good enough floor for cash games. But really, if you're paying up there, you kind of needed a little bit more from him versus Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp, who both did quite a bit better. And as we'll see here on the chalkboard, they were in that same range. So Tyreek Hill at 9,300, very high owned as well, and Cooper Kupp 9,000, and they both did quite a bit better. So good cash lineup nonetheless. Christian Kirk, that was another guy that was chalk, and for good reason. He was a great play. He had a great game. 5,400, 13 points. You can see the price difference there. 2,900. That'll certainly get you there. Marquise Brown, another solid play. Didn't quite have the type of performance we would have expected, but still 7 points. It's not the reason you would certainly miss the cash line from a 5,300 player. And then Schultz smashed. So this was probably the one place that kind of pivoted because the rest of this lineup was chalk besides the defense. But yeah, ate a lot of good chalk. So overall, a really good cash lineup. David Montgomery got hurt. This lineup would have been much higher than 150 had Montgomery not got hurt when he did. So really good cash lineup here. Let's go and see maybe let's see if we can find some lineups that were bad. No, I wouldn't say that was bad. And we can kind of explain, why you wouldn't play this lineup. See, this, for example, I would never play Jimmy G in cash. His floor is way too low. Yeah, I got hurt, but his floor is just way too low. It wasn't a great game environment. You're going against a New England team. It was a low-scoring total projected from Vegas. You're going against a New England team that knows him very well. Belichick just knows how to take away your best weapon and make life hard for you. So there certainly were a lot better options, even in the 5K range. 6K was where he wanted to be. Overall, pretty good lineup, except for the fact that you played both a low-owned Josh Jacobs. Too many low-owned players in here. So this is what you don't want to do in cash. You got Jacoby Myers, 6%. You got Kyle Pitts, 8%. Jacoby Myers, 7%. Jacobs is what I meant to say, 6%. And you have Jimmy G, 2%. So part of the reason why these guys are so low owned is because they don't all project that well. Jacobs projected well. Kyle Pitts projected well. Jacoby Myers, I totally get the play. And he's not the reason you didn't cash 17 points. But, when you start stringing together this many low-owned plays, that's essentially what's going to happen. So, those are the kind of mistakes you don't want to have in cash. And I'm going to kind of do a little walk of shame for myself. So, for me, there's a couple of mistakes I made before this game. I really liked the cash lineup that I had. And what do they say? Don't tinker. Tinker, tinker, tinker. I will not tinker. Well, I tinkered with this lineup. So originally, I did decide that I wanted to play Joe Burrow, and it certainly worked out. It wasn't the reason I didn't cash. Raheem Mostert, like I said, I identified Raheem Mostert as a core play. And Chuba Hubbard, even though I didn't like the game script, he was too high owned, and Dalton Foreman was too low owned, and I was just more comfortable with Chuba Hubbard. Now, here is really where I didn't cash. And, I think kind of the one mistake I made was playing DJ Moore. And, granted, like hindsight is 50-50. And, Justin Fields got hurt. And then the backup quarterback came in and he underthrew DJ Moore for like a wide open, 40, 50-yard touchdown, whatever it would have been. And I certainly would have hit the cash line had I got there. But, DJ Moore, I don't think, even though he had looked really good the past couple weeks before that, he had got 9-10 targets. I think there was probably some better plays in that range that were just more consistent. I could have played Adam Thielen. I could have paid up at defense. That certainly, I think, would have made the difference. 10 points there. Wasn't a bad performance, but there was better. DeAndre Swift was good. So really, I just kind of got let down by Zach Ertz and DJ Moore. And that sort of thing happens. And sometimes, like I said, I wish I hadn't tinkered and I would have got to the cash line. But overall, I think this was just kind of just running bad on this slate. Variance happens, but nonetheless, it's something to think about. A guy like DJ Moore, he can be kind of higher variance, even though he had been running hot lately. So that's something to keep in mind. I could have certainly paid down a little more there and, probably got in Kyron Williams, for example. And I think that would have made quite a bit the difference, as we'll see. Kyron Williams, he was one of the smash plays. However, another DFS Army subscriber, in fact, Shoe Dog sent me this. He played Justin Fields. He didn't play Kyron Williams, and he cashed 153 points. So, we're going to go to the chalkboard, which I think really helps, just kind of spell it out for you who the best plays are. And that's something you get as a DFS Army subscriber. And by the way, if you like this kind of content, hit the like button. We like reviewing past slates, so we really think it helps, but to keep it coming, let us know that you like this kind of content. Hit the like button, comment, let us know who you played, and subscribe and hit that notification button so you never miss an episode. But yeah, this is a really good cash line. Fields was who I was on initially, but I saw Burrow and Stafford in good spots, and they were just quite a bit higher on that, and I decided to pivot there. But I mean, when you can play a guy who gets hurt and gets 5 points and you still cash, you're doing something right. And by the way, he played Foreman, and I still think Foreman was a good play. Given his price and the fact that, we've seen ceiling games from him in a pretty decent floor. But he did come in as low owned, and he didn't do as good as Chuba Hubbard. So, clearly there was reason for that, and, missed out on that a little bit. But nonetheless, smashed with Mostert, core play. Chase did enough. Adam Thielen, again, he had been seeing a lot of targets. He was on my cash sheet. Great play playing Thielen. Same thing with Kirk. He was one of the highest owned guys. Kyle Pitts was popping. DeAndre Swift was in a great matchup. And then the Lions. So, one spot really missed here because of Fields. And this lineup really should have done over 160 points pretty easily if Fields stays healthy. Maybe even 170. Who knows? So really good lineup from Shoe Dog. And then we'll kind of just finish off with a chalkboard. And this is what I'm saying. This is something you get as a DFS Army subscriber. If you want to be a DFS Army subscriber, get access to the chalkboard and all the tools, the domination station, the cheat sheets, research station, the Proptimizer, air yards, matchups, you name it. Use code FantasyFling, get you 10% off of VIP subscription. So pretty well spelled out. Stafford, Burrow, Lawrence, Tua. These were the top cash game plays. Same thing, Mostert, Hubbard, Kyron Williams, ETN. These were a lot of the top guys. Swift was a guy that, even though, he's top 10, was still a great play. And Foreman was just outside that spot. But this really shows you, if you don't see a guy on this list, you probably shouldn't play him. And that's kind of where I go to DJ Moore. In cash anyway. We're talking about cash. DJ Moore, even though the volume was there and the matchup looked pretty good, wasn't on this list. So sometimes it's maybe something you're missing. So something to keep in mind. Chase got there in cash, for cash, not tournaments, but cash. Christian Kirk, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp. These were Adam Thielen, Addison Downs. These were a lot of your cash plays, pay down, studs, mid-price, all the above. And then, Ingram, Kyle Pitts, Ertz, Schultz. So as a DFS Army subscriber, you get access to this. But I think that's going to do it for this week. Shout out to those who were profitable. You have all the tools, and that's the best thing is we don't give out lineups at DFS Army. So we're just trying to coach people to make the best lineups they can. And it's like teaching someone how to fish. You either hand them a fish or you teach them how to fish, and they catch their own. So that's what a lot of our subscribers did to cash this week. Happy for them. Hopefully I will get back on the winning side this next week, and I'll be reviewing positive lineups. So for those of you who are DFS Army VIPs and catch the Cash Game VIP breakdown, I'll be dropping that Friday morning. We have tons of other content coming. Obviously, the first look starts tomorrow, so subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that. And then with that, obviously, we got the game plan, we got the Millie Maker Show, tournament tactics, Players Club, so much content coming your way. So keep your eyes glued to YouTube. We will see you soon. Out.